The person I spoke to for my interview is 25 years old, and she is from Pakistan. She is actually an advisor. She's in higher education at UNLV. And she answered some of the questions very consistently, actually, with my research. Some of the things she told me were she, growing up, she was actually expected by others to become a doctor, not necessarily her parents. So if like somebody was asking her, oh, you're in college, so what are you going into? What's your major? Are you going to be a doctor? Like that's the first thing they assumed about her. And for a while, she actually was pursuing that career, but then she ended up taking a turn and went into higher education. Another thing is she told me that it is customary to bring a food dish to somebody's home if they're visiting for the first time, and or a gift of some sort. And they usually do take their shoes off upon entering their home, upon entering that person's home. And something else that I found interesting was that she told me that in regards to healthcare, she actually didn't really experience anything that, was a barrier culturally. The only thing is, she noticed that people would get annoyed if there was a lot of people, like family in the room, which is understandable as a healthcare provider, especially if it's a small room. You can't really give the proper care you need, and usually family members ask a million questions to every person that enters the room that particular person might not have the answers to, or they can't give the answers to. Like, let's say they had a scan, they can't really answer that question because that's something the doctor has to answer. So they do believe in face, that I talked about earlier, the concept of face, embarrassment in front of others. And so she told me that it's really emphasized, the way that they act. If they bring dishonor, it's to the whole family. It's not like just themselves personally. So that's something that I found interesting, and it's pretty much consistent with my culture too, because it sounded familiar, but we just don't call it face. So another thing, she told me that it's really important to respect the elders. So when she was growing up, her parents taught her, you have to acknowledge. Let's say the grandma is in the room, you acknowledge your grandma first. Or if you're giving like food, let's say you're passing out food or tea, you give the oldest person the tea first, and things like that. She told me that her culture, you have to make sure you're as respectful as possible, and be punctual, because that's part of respecting time, and time and age mainly is what she discussed. Let me see what she said about, okay, so she said for healthcare, the healthcare there, she